Welcome to the Widows Collective, where grief meets hope, healing, and community. I'm Lauren Lentz, grief coach, fellow widow, and the heart behind this space. There is life before loss, and then there is life after. If you're here, it likely means your life has been turned upside down by the death of your person. Maybe you've just found yourself in this new world that feels unrecognizable, or maybe you've been walking it for a while, trying to figure out what healing looks like now. I want you to know you are not alone. This podcast is a gathering place for widows living in the after. Together, we'll name the ache, honor the love, and share tools, truths, and stories that help you feel supported along the way. My hope is that every episode gives you a sense of community, comfort, and permission to meet yourself exactly where you are. Hello, and welcome back to episode 28 of the Widows Collective podcast. I took a bit of a turn on this episode this week because last week, I shared a post on Instagram about going back and sitting beside the newly widowed version of myself, and it really resonated with the widow community. But what that tells me is something important. The words I spoke aren't just mine. They're words of hope that many of us hold on to during our darkest, scariest times. So today, I want to slow it down. I want to sit beside the early version of me and maybe the version of you that is still here and gently expand on what she needed to hear. You will survive this. When Kevin was first killed, I could absolutely not hold that truth. It was too impossible. How was he here this morning and gone in the afternoon? I remember lying in bed one day thinking about how much physical, mental, and emotional pain I was in. I told my mom that going through my difficult labor over and over again still wouldn't come close to what I was experiencing. I truly thought my heart was going to stop or break in two. There was no way a human body could feel this and keep going. And if I'm being honest, a part of me didn't want to. It didn't even feel right to survive something so cruel. No one tells you that shock and heartbreak can feel like this. And I don't think anyone could prepare you even if they did. So your brain tries to make sense of it by saying, this is too much. This is the end. And in a way, a part of that story felt true because the life I knew had ended. The version of me that existed that morning was gone. The future I thought I was walking toward vanished in a second. Looking back now, it makes sense that my body felt like it was dying too. It was trying to keep up with a loss that seemed to have taken everything with it. And if I could sit beside her, that version of me who didn't recognize her own life anymore, I wouldn't push her out of that feeling. I wouldn't tell her to be strong. I would just sit next to her and say, of course it feels like the end. Your whole world just turned upside down. All of your feelings make sense. Hold on. Take everything second by second. You will survive this. I know it doesn't feel that way right now, but you don't have to figure out what any of this means yet. I'm here beside you. Just stay, breathe, let this moment be what it is without needing it to be anything else. Because survival comes from staying, even when it feels impossible to. It's something your body does over and over again, one breath and 1 second at a time. One day, not now, but one day, you will look back on where you started and you won't believe how you got here. You will feel so proud of how far you've come. But for now, Feel all that you need to. You are going through unimaginable loss. This is the only place that you need to be. Your body is carrying something your mind cannot yet accept. The second I heard the words, "he's gone," it felt like an invisible constrictor had wrapped itself around my chest, tight and unrelenting. I couldn't take a full breath no matter how hard I tried. It was like all of a sudden I had to remind myself how to breathe. Something that had always been automatic now required conscious effort, and that terrified me. I remember feeling almost claustrophobic inside of my own body, trapped in a panic I couldn't escape. It was confusing too, because no one outside could see what I was feeling or even truly understand it. What if this never stops? What if it feels like this forever? What I understand now, but didn't then, is that this was my body reacting to shock, pushing me into survival mode. Every sensation felt magnified because my nervous system had absorbed something my mind had yet to process. My body knew the devastation before my brain could even wrap around it. So it tightened, it constricted, it tried to protect me. But back then, it didn't feel protective at all. It felt suffocating. So if I could sit beside that version of me now, I would place a hand on her back and simply say, "Your body is holding what your mind hasn't caught up to yet. You don't have to force breath. Just allow it to move however it needs to. I am here with you. You are safe in this moment. Let your body find its own rhythm again in its own time." And I would breathe with her. I would stay with her until her chest loosened on its own, until her body remembered it could expand again and that it could carry the weight of this grief, one inhale and one exhale at a time. Your life is not over. I had spent a decade with Kevin. It felt like we were just babies when we met, dreaming about who we would become and what our life would look like. And even after 10 years, it still felt like we were just getting started. And then, just like that, in the blink of an eye, it was all gone. And when he vanished, it didn't just feel like I lost him. It felt like I lost my life too. Like even though I was still alive, there was going to be no way that I could continue on fully living. No one tells you what to do with that. No one tells you how to wake up the next day when you turn over to an empty side of the bed, when the future you were walking toward no longer exists. No one tells you that at some point, everything may feel pointless, heavy, hollow, like moving forward wouldn't even make sense. Back then, I thought that joy, hope, meaning, and purpose were all lost on me and only existed for other people, not myself. If I could sit beside her, shattered and hopeless, I wouldn't try to give her a vision for the future. I wouldn't tell her you'll be okay, because that version of me wouldn't have believed it anyway. I would walk beside her and say, "I see you, aching, raw, fatigued to your bones. I know that a life without the man you love with your whole being feels too big, too painful to continually sit with. You don't have to figure out anything right now. You don't even have to figure out tomorrow. Just get through this moment." And I would let her feel the weight of that, because what I know now is that life doesn't come back all at once. It comes back slowly and with our own permission, not anyone else's. It comes back in small moments, in little laughs that seemingly show up out of nowhere, and a smile that arrives before the tears when thinking of them. And although I wouldn't say it to her then because she wouldn't be ready to hear it, I know this now. This will change the entire trajectory of her life. in ways that are unimaginably hard and in ways that one day will hold a vast amount of beauty and meaning too. So instead, I would simply tell her, keep going, because even when it doesn't feel like it, you're still moving. Some people you care about will not understand. When I first became a widow, it seemed like I woke up the next morning speaking a language the people around me no longer could comprehend. Grief changed everything for me. It changed how I thought, how I felt, how I moved through the world. Even the simplest interactions felt different. Conversations that used to be easy suddenly felt exhausting. Surface level talk felt almost impossible. And the depth I was craving, not everyone could meet me in. It was like I had been dropped into an entirely different reality and everyone else was still living in the old one. And that gap was incredibly painful because I wanted to be understood. I wanted people to just get it without me having to explain. But instead, there were moments that often left me feeling unseen. People trying to say the right thing and missing completely. People avoiding it altogether because it made them uncomfortable. People expecting me to be better before I was anywhere close. And I remember thinking, how can the world keep going like this when it feels like mine has completely stopped? There was a tremendous amount of disappointment, confusion, quiet kind of heartbreak layered on top of everything else. But even inside of that, there were glimmers. People who showed up differently, people who didn't try to fix me, people who could sit in the silence and not rush me out of it. And those people, they felt safe. If I could sit beside her, lost, aching, feeling so alone, I would say, not everyone will understand what you're going through. And that's not a reflection on you. Some people simply can't enter the space you're in right now. And that's okay. You need support that meets you where you are. There are people out there who understand, who will make space without judgment, without trying to fix. People who will sit with you in this exactly as you are. You just haven't found them all yet. But when you do, you'll feel seen in a way you never have before. And it will remind you that you are not alone. This is not fair. There is a truth that will always remain for me, no matter how far out I am in my experience of grief and widowhood. Kevin's death will always be terribly unfair, absolutely preventable, and no amount of time, healing, or acceptance will ever make that part make sense. There were moments early on where the sadness would shift into something sharper, hot, visceral, anger, but not just anger, pure rage. Rage at the situation, rage at the world, rage at the fact that everything kept moving while my life had stopped and come undone. And underneath it all was this truth. He should be here. He deserves this life too. And no matter how many times I thought it, it didn't change anything, which tended to make it feel more unbearable. If I could sit beside her, I wouldn't try to calm her. I wouldn't try to explain it. I would just give her the biggest embrace and say, you're right. This isn't fair, and it never will be. It's okay for that truth to walk alongside you for all of your days. I would let her feel it. I would tell her not to be scared of her rage, that her anger was only protecting her from her deep, deep ache. That there are parts of grief that don't need softening. They need space. They need a place to be seen. They need air. They need to be honored exactly as they are. Your son will be okay. I used to think I never signed up to be a solo parent, and then I would feel an instant wave of guilt. I would lay my life down for my son, and at the same time, I was constantly exhausted by the task of taking care of him all by myself. Survival mode had me impatient and irritable, dysregulated, not mentally and emotionally present, and truly the darkest version of myself I'd ever been. I had thoughts like, I'm going to ruin this little boy. I don't even deserve him. This fear, this sadness, it lived in my body constantly. The fear that I wasn't enough, that the way I was showing up, exhausted, stretched so thin, was somehow shaping him in ways I couldn't undo. I remember thinking, I'm going to mess him up. I don't know how to do this. And the weight of that on top of everything else I was already carrying felt like too much. If I could sit beside that new widow, that new solo mama, I would gently take that weight from her shoulders and set it down beside her. I would give her the biggest hug. I would put my hands on hers and say, you were never meant to be everything. You were never meant to carry this alone. But even here in your grief, in your exhaustion, you are still showing up for him. And that matters more than you can see right now. He doesn't need perfection. He doesn't need you to get it right every time. He just needs you, your presence, your love, your protection, your willingness to stay even on the hardest days. You are doing the best you can with what you have right now. That is enough. It's more than enough. Because what I know now is that being there consistently and perfectly honestly is what he will carry with him far more than any moment you think you got wrong. Love is not lost on you. I was 34 years old when Kevin was killed. Early on, I remember sitting at my dining room table thinking, is this it? I can't possibly go my whole entire life without being loved ever again. And immediately I felt mortified for even having the thought, who was I worrying about being loved when my husband had just died? But the truth is, for many of us, love is a part of who we are, how we connect, how we give, how we feel alive. And to imagine never giving it or receiving it again, that feels devastating in its own right. Yet grief is messy. Conflicting thoughts come up, feelings of guilt, shame, and even betrayal can color everything that you're thinking. And then there were the stories I told myself about love, that I had already had mine, that it only happens once, that other women who had found love again must surely not have loved their spouses as much as I had loved Kevin. And then there were the quieter, more unspoken thoughts. Who would choose someone like me now? With this kind of loss, who has a child, a body that had changed, and a heart that had been broken wide open. Back then, those thoughts didn't feel like stories. They felt like truth because grief changes how we see ourselves. It changes how we believe others see us too. It can make you feel marked, different, like you carry something that sets you apart in a way that can't be undone. If I could sit beside her, I wouldn't rush her through these thoughts. I wouldn't try to convince her of anything she wasn't ready to believe. I would say, be so gentle with yourself. What you're going through is unlike anything you've ever experienced. I know how real these stories feel, how heavy, how permanent, and that's okay to be in it. You are human carrying a loss that changes everything inside of you. You will wonder who you are now. You'll wonder who you'll become and whether you'll ever feel whole again. But hear me so it can settle with time. The limiting beliefs you've created are just stories, not truth. They are the lens of grief and pain, not the whole picture. One day you will begin to see that love has not left you. It has only changed shape, and I know it doesn't seem to matter now, but down the road it will. I would hope that that would land. I wouldn't push her toward romantic love. I wouldn't tell her what her future should look like. I would just remind her, you are still someone who can be loved, not in the same way, not to replace what you had, but in new ways, ways you can't yet imagine. Love is still here, and the people who sit beside you without trying to fix your pain, and friendships that show up even when life is messy, and your children, and the moments of laughter and connection, and quiet mornings that all of a sudden feel safe again, and small acts of kindness that remind you someone sees you. And yes, if and when you're ready, romantic love may return too, but only if it serves the version of you that exists now. And if it doesn't, that's okay. There is no judgment in what you choose. You will feel joy again. After Kevin's death, joy felt like some far away place that I used to know. Somewhere on the front porch, watching the sunset with my legs draped over his. Then it felt unreachable, unattainable, something I didn't even want to be a part of if he couldn't. It felt like the lights went out. No one was home. And even when there were brief moments where something lighter tried to come in, it didn't feel good. It felt wrong. Like my body and my mind didn't know what to do with it. Like allowing it meant I was somehow leaving him behind. So even the smallest flickers of joy were often followed by immediate sadness. But over time, instead of pushing any possibility of joy away, I started to long for its presence. Not all at once and not in some huge way. It started more like an openness, an awareness, a willingness to seek it out again, to catch it in my life, if only for a moment. I started to observe a second where I caught myself laughing, breath that felt just a little bit fuller, a morning that didn't quite feel as heavy as the one before. The taste of something I loved coming back to me, or the ability to go back out on the porch again without instantly feeling an ache. And if I could sit beside her, I would lean in, wrap an arm around her shoulder and whisper, I promise you won't lose him by feeling joy. You won't betray the love you have for him by letting the light back in. You'll just learn to carry both. Grief and joy can coexist. In time, you will begin to notice these sparks. Let them remind you that living and loving are not mutually exclusive, that each moment of joy doesn't erase Kevin, it carries him with you. Every smile, every small laugh, every soft moment of peace is threaded with his memory, his love, the life you shared. Letting life back in doesn't mean leaving him behind. It means bringing him with you. You don't have to chase these moments. Just let them come, because over time, they begin to stay a little longer, and what once felt impossible becomes something you learn to hold right alongside your grief. Lean into it. Becoming a widow was like no other pain I'd ever felt. The suffering, the discomfort, the emotional anguish. Initially, I wanted to push it away, numb it out, busy myself through it, or find an easy button. It seemed never ending, like too much for one person to bear. I wanted out. I wanted relief. I wanted it to stop. But grief doesn't work like that. And if I could sit beside her, the version of me who was trembling and overwhelmed and desperate for escape, I would say, you don't have to dive in. Just stop running. Just stop pushing it away. Turn toward it a little bit, because that's where the softening begins. It doesn't mean the pain disappears. It doesn't mean it's easier. But when you allow yourself to stay, even for a moment, with what's rising in your chest. Something does shift. Your body begins to realize it can hold this. Your heart begins to remember that survival is not about avoiding pain. It's about understanding it, normalizing it, and moving through it, learning to integrate it into your life. You might notice your breath deepening even slightly, a tension loosen in your shoulders. The tears that may have been waiting for release finally come, and your body releases a little of the weight it's been carrying. Even if just for a second, it's a signal that you are learning to flow with grief instead of fighting against it. And over time, these tiny moments of leaning in grow, and your capacity begins to expand. The ache still comes, but the edges don't feel as sharp. You start to trust that grief is not a force meant to destroy you. It's a current that carries you if you let it. You don't need to do it all at once. In fact, you can't. You don't need to feel everything perfectly. Leaning in a little at a time is enough. Let your body, your heart, and your mind guide you. Let them teach you how to stay with the intensity, to ride it, to breathe through it. And in those quiet, tender moments of turning toward what hurts, you may even notice something else. A flicker of yourself that's still alive, still capable, still here, still human. Because leaning into grief is not surrender. It's reclamation. It's proof that you are still standing even when it feels impossible. Even when the weight seems too heavy, you are learning to hold your life again, moment by moment, breath by breath. I hope this episode spoke to a piece of you today. If you are in those early days when everything feels shattered and nothing makes sense, I want you to remember, but it's not the end of you, even if it feels like it. It's the beginning of something you never asked for, but you are slowly learning to carry. And like I said, if that still hasn't landed for you yet, that's okay. I was once there, right beside you, in the trenches. As my friend Marie said the other day, grief is not an emergency, even though it feels that way. Grief is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You don't have to do it all today. You don't have to see the way forward. Just stay with this moment. Let it be exactly what it is, because even here, even in the depths of this, you are still slowly doing it, and it matters more than you know. I'm sitting beside you always. Until next time, big hugs and lots of love. You've been listening to The Widows Collective. I'm Lauren Lentz, and it means so much to me that you spent this time here today. If you found comfort or connection in today's episode, I invite you to please subscribe, leave a rating, or share it with someone who might need a little support. You can also follow me on Instagram at I'm Sorry We're Friends and join my email list at laurenlentz.com to explore my one-to-one grief coaching, group program, retreats, and other tools designed to help widows navigate loss with understanding and guidance. I hope you'll join me next week for another conversation where we'll continue exploring grief, healing, and ways to reimagine life after loss. I'm sorry you're here, and I'm so grateful that you are. Thank you for being a part of this community. Your presence is an act of courage and self-compassion, and I'm honored to walk this path alongside you.